because that's what sometimes they'll do to a woman. A woman may have a great opinion. They'll go, but she's a but she ain't got but she did this but you know that's attacking the character of a black woman. And when you attack a character, it attacks the intellect, which attacks the integrity. And when you don't have integrity, or when you don't value someone's integrity, it's hard for you to process it. So you got to understand the black woman's voice. We have the voice, but protect it, put the bag on it, support it. And I think that that's where we're at in America.
So the question is this: how do thought leaders, school dropouts, former and current students find out what's next after they do or don't cross that stage? If you want to know the secrets to starting the career or business of your dreams, getting paid whatever you desire, and discovering what you do the best with the least amount of effort, then this is the right podcast for you. I'm Shawn Anthony, and this is School's Over. Now what? The podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I'm your host, Shawn Anthony. If this is your very first time checking out the show and what we do here on School's Over, Now What, let me break it down for you. It's important I give it straight to you, all facts. This show, each and every single week, we have continued to inspire you by bringing you not only an inspiring message, but a person that has truly answered the question at some point in your life. I don't care where you are, you had to ask yourself this question, and that's: school's over, now what? And the show has completely blown up. And I want to just say, I thank you guys so much for listening, because as I'm recording this episode, we have just reached our 2-year anniversary of doing this. So thank you guys so much for just clicking that button and checking us out. This show would be nothing without you. And if you ever listened to a single episode before, you already know how I like to kick this thing off with the review of the week. This week's review of the week comes from Eric G. Allen, and he wrote, "Love this show, highly recommend, great show," and give us a 5-star rating. Guys, it's as simple as that. If you gain any value from over 100 plus of these episodes, be sure, if you're listening right now on iTunes, scroll to the bottom of your screen and click that 5-star rating, leave your review, continue to show support. It's helped us do tremendous things. With that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Are you thinking of starting a business? You're going to need a website. Or do you have a business but haven't updated your website in over 2 years? Then you need to hear this. Olive Branch Digital will help you create the website of your dreams. They are masters at turning your ideas to responsive websites that get picked up on Google and all the major search engines. Stop wasting time trying to learn the code and visit olivebranchddigital.com. Mention the podcast and get 10% off your website project. This episode is brought to you by www.patreon.com/schoolsover.nowwhat. For as low as $5, you can help us impact more people, tour schools, and reach communities. You will also get exclusive Patreon-only content. That's bonus episodes, early access, and be able to go behind the scenes with me and some of our guests. Visit www.patreon.com/schoolsover.nowwhat and become a patron today. All right, let's just jump right into this. And the reason you click that button, you seen the title. We have the one and only Jamila Mustafa on the show today. And if you have no idea who she is, let me break it down to you. She's one of the most prominent voices shaping the millennial generation. As an award-winning broadcast journalist, actress, host, you name it. She has hosted a variety of shows on iHeart Radio, ESPN, BET, The Breakdown, MTV. We can go all day with the accomplishments that she has had. And she's spoken to nearly any and everybody, the who's, right? The Diddy's, you name it. She has had them in front of her and she has shared their stories. She's also an HBCU grad. And you know how we like HBCU grads on this show, who pour in so much value to our community. So get ready for that. And one of her most, I like to say, one of her biggest accomplishments, she's also the youngest commencement speaker ever at Bennett College. And those guys have been around for over 147 years. This is an episode you're going to want to play again and again. It's raw, it's value. Buckle up. Grab your pencil, paper, wherever you are right now, and be sure to take notes. Ladies and gentlemen, episode 110 with the one and only Jamila Mustafa. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with the one and only Jamila Mustafa, and it's crazy to have her right now. You've seen her everywhere, from talking to artists like Pop Smoke, Tiana Taylor, Taraji P. Henson. I mean, your list is so long and things that you're doing with MTV. We're excited and welcoming you to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. Happy quarantine. I think we're still quarantined. And I'm doing well. I'm really excited to be here. You have an awesome platform, and I can't wait to just talk and share.
Oh man, facts. So I know people right now that they're doing their research as always. They're always trying to figure out, okay, who's this person we bringing on to the show today, right? I want you to tell people, it's always important to give them the backstory, the background, right? Take us back to that young girl growing up in Delaware, Wilmington. Give us all of that glory.
Yes, I am from the first state, the second smallest state in the United States, and it is highly recognized globally for being small, tax-free, and for its enormous crime. That's something that has been highlighted outside of the accomplishments, and we are called the place to be somebody. That is our slogan here. So born and raised, Wilmington, Delaware, got started in acting when I was very young. Very talkative. And when you talk, they're either you're going to be a lawyer or you're going to be like talking, and lawyer was not it. So I'm not really argumentative. Although I like to do research, I don't like to really debate, because if I feel like I know something, I know it, So yeah, I chose this path. And at a very young age, I booked my first commercial at maybe fourth grade. Sixth grade, I auditioned and made it to the final round for a film called A Killian the Big. And that movie came out in eighth grade, and Keke Palmer had the role. By ninth grade, I had a TV show on Fox TV, and it was called the Philadelphia Eagles Kids Club. And that show that I auditioned for as an actress, the role was for a host, right?
Wow.
So through acting, I booked a role to become a host. And it was during an episode with former Eagles player L.J. Smith that he said, "You're going to be the next Oprah Winfrey." And I looked at him and I said, "What's an Oprah?" That's like a famous part of my story. And not as an insult, but nowadays, before you hear a name like Beyonce or Oprah, it's not a common name. Nowadays, you hear Beyonce or Oprah and the world knows who they are. And so that's just a nod to their success. But after that, I remember being so young, I was like, what's Oprah? I didn't even understand the comparison until I realized that this is just a gift, the gift of conversation, the gift of being able to be in present time, in present moment, understanding who I'm speaking to and what I need to get from the conversation. I just had that naturally at like 12 years old. And after that, I began to really harvest and manifest the life that I'm living now. So, and then from there, I have martial arts, black belt martial arts. I've danced everywhere from, Philly and New York and the pageantries. I have 4 pageant titles, from national to local title to a HBCU title, to representing. So you name it. I've worked for ESPN. I work with iHeart, MTV, BET. I have my own production company. I have my own college short, HBCU to Hollywood. So, I can go on and on for days. So God has really blessed me on my journey.
Yeah, that's amazing. Your accolades they're there, right? Like, and people know that about you. Take me to like you as a kid. You mentioned something that definitely caught my interest, is that, when someone says, "Oh, you're an Oprah," right? When you found out who Oprah was and you found out what, she's been able to obviously do, how did you take that compliment then?
I was like, oh, all right. Like, because I'm still a kid. So it's one thing if you want to be and you've always been playing basketball, and then someone goes, you're Magic, right? You might know MJ, but you might not know Magic. And then you learn about Magic. You're like, oh, shoot, I can be Magic. Because you already think that you're like AI.
Yeah.
But I had no clue about even what hosting was. I really thought I was acting still. Like, I thought this was my role. And I thought I was being defiant because I had lines. I had a script. I had questions. And one day on set, I took my earpiece out because they wanted me to pose a question about maybe it was like the 50-yard line or something, and that related to football, which made sense. But I couldn't help but to think, and I've always been like this as a kid, and it's common to say that, some kids who are just excited, they have ADD or ADHD, that they kind of slap that title on a kid, that if you talk a lot and you're just excited, they just tend to say that, especially during the time I was like in middle school. Like that was like the thing to say. But long story short, that particular moment, I didn't want to ask the question about 50-yard line. I took it out, and as a kid, I wanted to know, what's your favorite candy? Like, I want, like, any fan, like, if you love Beyonce, you want to know, what does Beyonce like to eat? What does like, what are you into? Do I have anything in common with a person who I like and who I look up to? And in that moment, I took it out. I wasn't asking about the 50-yard line. I didn't even know where it was at. I asked, what's your favorite candy? And I believe he gave the answer of like Skittles. And I was like, which color? And then, and then that just became, who's your best friend on the team? This is stuff that even basketball players, who can tell me who Steph Curry's best friend on the team is? It may be a whole relationship that none of us know about. So these are questions that I care about, because as a kid, I had best friends, and your best friends are your world as a kid. And in that moment, I think for him, that I didn't even realize, he was like, this girl has a gift. Like he watched me do it. Like, and so even when he said Oprah and I went to go research, I'm like, she interviews people, but I'm meant to be like, it didn't click to me until I kind of began to really take it seriously as I got into high school. And it was just always something I was doing. And yeah, like I think so when the article came out last year, in allhiphop.com, it posted an article and basically boldly said, is Jamila Mustafa the next Oprah Winfrey? And the article even went so far to list a breakdown side by side of literally what Oprah had did and my accomplishments by the age of 26, 27, and how my trajectory was already in line. And I think that was the first time I really could see it on paper and begin to at least acknowledge it. I don't even have $1 million, let alone $1 billion, but the potential is there, and it's a compliment nonetheless.
Yeah, powerful, powerful. You know what? I think people can get a key takeaway right there is your ability at any point, guys. You're listening to this, whether you're in business, you're listening to this right now, whether you're creating something, you have the ability and the gift to humanize someone that was of an elite status or someone of some stature, right? And I think it's important that we humanize people with our words, with our questions, with our insights, because that comes off as relatable. And the fact that you mentioned, you can relate to this. People can't relate to billionaires right now, right? Some people can't, but people can relate to things that they like, things that they eat. And that's what's really going to make the conversation more interesting.
Yes. I'm taking notes as you speak.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to. So here's what I like about like your story, which I think is important that people grasp, is that here's this person with this talent, right? Who's getting recognized, who obviously could have kept going anywhere she wanted to. Why did you decide to pick, what I am proud to be, somebody that has attended an HBCU?
No question. I didn't pick an HBCU. The HBCU chose me. One thing about me is that, and that's probably why they say I had ADHD and ADD growing up. But I have extreme tunnel vision and a high level of lock-in focus. And what I mean by that is that, unfortunately, if I have my hopes set on something and I'm focused on something, everything else no longer matters. And I can't control that. And so at a very early age, and it could have been maybe 2 years after that conversation, and I could have been 12 or 13, I knew something along these lines is what I'm meant to do. So when it came down to school and in the high school and stuff, I was active. Yes, I was focusing. Yes. But I will say this, a lot of students who are probably listening, I wasn't the best student coming out of high school. I could barely get into college. I could not get in. Let's be clear. I did not have the grades. My grades were not well. If you talk about personality, if you talk about involvement, if you talk about recommendations, and I attended the best performing arts school, which was very recommended high in academics in my entire state. And I was one of the top students. My grades were horrible. I could not get into school. So first of all, And HBCU was really my only option. And Delaware State was my only option. They took a risk on me. It was a combination between my family, between the school seeing the worth, and between HBCUs really investing and caring about melanated students. And when they took that risk, my father told me, and I won't forget this, he said, I know you had shaky grades in high school, but don't come home with anything less than a 3.0 or you won't be going back. And from there, I took it serious. I was on Dean's List. I had my grades tight. And that became a priority, right? It'd be, like I said before, if I have tunnel vision, that became a priority, along with understanding that college is going to be, as some say, your biggest scam, but it's the biggest playground. And it's the only place where you're going to get a firsthand lesson and option to navigate life. You get a trial basis of navigating life. Nowhere else can that happen. And one of the highlights ended up being Miss Delaware State, going on to be the first Miss Delaware State to place top 3. I was first runner up for the Miss HBCU Virgin Islands one. So I did end up representing, and I was the youngest and the first to be asked to join the Hall of Fame lecture tour, which puts on the Miss HBCU pageant filled up, so I still serve as the youngest speaker outside of the queen that we invite every single year. So for me, even competing in the Miss HBCU pageant, it was about representing my university, but more importantly, building a relationship with the Hall of Fame, and kind of closing that gap between old heads, right, in the HBCU community and young students, because it's very important to have a bridge. So I don't know if I fully answered it a lot, but yeah, that's how I chose the HBCU. It really chose me. And from there, I went hard for it.
Yeah. I go hard for Winston-Salem State University too.
I love that. Went there. That was one of my stops.
Oh yeah. That's dope place. And then we've had, just recently, this last week, we had another Miss HBCU. We had Africa Miranda on the show. As well. It's so interesting to me right now when I travel prior to COVID. We'll get into that in a second. But when I travel and speak with all these guys, right, these celebrities, these influencers, and people you speak with as well, it's amazing the conversations that happen offline. And one of the most common offline conversations I've had, and I'll be honest, with primarily millionaire people that are not of color, is the power of the Black woman voice. And how powerful it is, and how powerful it is to have them on their shows, and the analytics and the things that they're seeing from it. How important, especially in times we're in right now, do you feel that voice needs to be represented?
I think it's no question is the voice represented? It's represented. It's there. The bigger question to pose, and something that Malcolm X talked about decades ago, was protecting the voice of the Black woman, right? Because the Black woman has a voice. We were born with a voice. It's no question. James Brown talked about it. We've always talked about it. You can right now name many women who are out there, but protecting that voice, right? Not tarnishing the integrity of their words, respecting their words, uplifting their words, giving women a platform like this to invite them to share it, right? And then you protect it. So when those try to tarnish, to break down, to humiliate, to diminish, to demise the Black woman, to attack her character, right? Because that's what sometimes they'll do to a woman. A woman may have a great opinion, they'll go, but she's a but she ain't got but she did this but that's attacking the character of a Black woman. And when you attack a character, it attacks the intellect, which attacks the integrity. And when you don't have integrity, or when you don't value someone's integrity, it's hard for you to process it. So you got to understand the Black woman's voice. We have the voice, but protect it, put the bag on it, support it. And I think that that's where we're at in America.
Hey guys, so let me take a guess. You're enjoying the show. And if that's right, please make sure that you take a screenshot of you listening to the podcast right now and tag me at Shawn R. Anthony _. I promise you this is going to help in amazing ways. And while you're at it, hit the 5-star rating and subscribe. With that being said, guys, let's get back to the show.
Yo, that was hard. Like this was IG Live, like fire emojis would have went everywhere, right? Like, I mean, that's the truth. And when we have, these positions, and it's so funny right now, so many companies are saying, oh, we sponsor this, or we're proud to, be for this. Call them out on it, right? Call them out on it and put your money where your mouth is. If you claim you about it, this is the time to be about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for you, I always want to know this, right? You've had the opportunity. We talked about it a little bit earlier in the intro. We talked about, these people that you've been around in these rooms. What's been some of the greatest conversations or the biggest things you've learned by being surrounded by such, heavy influences in the game?
The biggest things I've learned is by what I've watched and what I've seen. I talk a lot. I love to run my mouth. And when you work in an arena of entertainment, when you work in a field where presentation's everything, conversation is key, your mouthpiece is going to tell me whatever I want to hear. And that's common knowledge. I don't go off of what I've talked about. I go off of what I've seen. I've seen incredible things happen. I've seen moves be made. You'll watch it with your own two eyes. I think that's phenomenal. And like I said before, I've been from Dionne Warwick to Tommy Smith. You talk about Tommy is known for raising the fist at the Olympics. I've sat down with Wayne. I've been through it all. I think one moment that stuck out to me was one from Selma Hayek. And she, was married to a billionaire. She is a well-respected global actress. And I remember being there. And I, like I shared with you my story. I've started out as an actress. I am an advocate. I have keys to the city. I've done a lot. And I remember being there. This is for Like a Boss. This is probably this is the last press junket I worked, right before COVID. This is right. I want to say, this is right before my Wayne interview in Miami. That was like March, and then COVID hit. And I remember someone saying, don't look at Selma Hayek. Certain entertainers, they'll give you a prerequisite to how to approach them. And this is real, right? Other people are like, oh my God, they're so cool. And then other people, it's like, you've heard the stories. And Selma was one of them. Don't look at her. Boom, boom, boom. It was like a very formal. And I remember going in there as myself, like you said, humanized. And I never knew what it was that I could do. But you've given me, I've learned. I didn't know. I always say relatable, or people just, they can't describe it. But I think that's what it is. I'm able to humanize them. And I remember just walking in, chilling. She had her feet crossed. I crossed my feet. I'm like, so what am I doing? A conversation? I look at her like, I ain't about to do that kind of, And it's like I have a certain type of personality, like, so I just walked in, chill, pleasure. But I'm always respectful. Thank you for your time. Because at that point, when you're dealing with billionaires, millionaires, individuals like yourself, myself, time is important. Time is money. Mm-hmm. So I'm grateful for your time. Some people will ask for an hour of your time and not want nothing. Mm-hmm. I'm thankful for your time. Even if it's something to help your movie, I get it. You could have been a billion other journalists here. I got that. I have your time. Yeah. And I'm grateful for it. And I let people know I appreciate them. I don't take it lightly. And it comes genuine. Long story short, I walk in, I'm talking to Selma. We talk about random stuff. I'm talking about skincare. We talk about skincare. It's this random stuff. Selma, before I leave, she stops. She says, stop. Everybody's quiet in the room. You're not supposed to be here. Tells me this. She shares with me that I'm supposed to be an actress. I'm not supposed to be doing what I'm doing. And I was insulted at first. I'm like, I'm recognized as the number one African-American woman journalist of my generation. Like, I'm number one. What do you mean I'm not supposed to be here? I worked hard for this. She's telling me her whole spirituality is different. She's on a whole different frequency. I don't have $1 billion. I don't know what that frequency's like. I wrap the interview. I feel it. I'm shaking. I've never shared this story. It's an emotional. It happened so fast. I go to the hallway and I'm not paying it no mind. I'm getting ready for the next interview. I shake it off. She ends up leaving after that interview. I leave because it was that emotion. I called my sister. I've never felt that in an interview. I've sat down with the biggest of the biggest. This is what I do because it's something came over me. I know I'm meant to be an actress. I've always acted, but I believe in God too. So when stuff like that happens, I don't dismiss stuff. I believe in God. And any HBCU student should, because God got us through college. We've been there. She doubles back in the hallway. I'm sitting in the hallway. Everybody at this point, all the journalists are out, and normally, they go. The talent goes right into. And what I explain to Junket, just so you guys can understand what I mean. You're most times in a very 5-star hotel, and it takes place in the room. So each room, you'll have a talent in the room, and the journalists, we wait in the hallway and we go into the rooms and we interview them. So if you're coming out, it can be very hectic. The hallways, it's a lot going on. So people just kind of go in and out to where they go. And anytime talent is being exited, they have security with them. So I want to kind of paint the picture for after Selma Hayek and I spoke and I left the room, she left the room. When she came back to go into the room, I didn't even really look at her because I figured she's paying attention to what she has to do. Maybe the moment that we shared wasn't that real, or maybe, maybe she just said it. Like I kind of dismissed it. Like, let me just get ready. Like maybe I just kind of brushed it off. This woman doubled back in 6-inch heels, walked over to me, grabbed my face, whispered in my ear something that I will never forget, and then walked away. That moment has always, it never happened, and I doubt it would happen again. And that was from God from her to me. And to me, like I said, she's one of the most well-respected actresses. She's brilliant. She's talented. And she gave me her time outside of the work. She gave me her time because God spoke to her to speak to me. Now I can tell you about me meeting Solange. I can tell you about the wildest part. I can tell you about me with Diddy. I can tell you all of that, but I'm telling you, that was a moment. That was a moment for me. And yeah, so.
Yo, that's crazy. That's powerful. And it's always those words like that you get spoken to. And we kind of hinted to a little bit earlier too, that offline, like that.
Yeah.
It's that stuff that really hits you. You know, I sat, the closest thing I can think about where I had one of those emotional moments, like you just mentioned, is words Marlette might have told me off camera about being, one of the only black male voices in this space trying to do this. I think those are the game changers for our life, right? Those are the pivotal moments where you say, you know what, I might have to go do that. You know what I'm saying? Like I might have to go make that happen.
I mean, because even the words, like she used words magical and hypnotic or hypnotizing. Because she was sneering and she said, you are just hypnotizing. You're magnetic. And I just did it. And I mean, I'm watching. It was undescribable. And she didn't care whoever was in the room. She had to say it. Stop everything. Like that. I was shocked. Like, she all right? That's how I was thinking. But she had to get that off her chest. And even if we never meet again, when she doubled back, and I won't share with what she whispered to me, but she meant it. And she wanted me to never forget that she said it. She was more than certain I would be a big actress. She was more than certain. Yeah, so, that's and I felt it. So we'll see what God has. Yeah. I don't know if Selma right or not, but we're going to see.
The way you move it's bound to happen. So, like, I want to talk about something else I think is important right now. It is the fact that we've talked about your accolades, but one of your accolades that stands out to me, that I think is by far, you talk about how you struggled in school, and you talk about, how you the HBCU chose you. You became the youngest commencement speaker at Bennett College, 147th year history. How did that feel, knowing that was about to happen?
Indescribable. I'm still processing it. I barely made it out of college, even as Miss Delaware State. It was difficult for me. I was that student. I was the host. I've always been a barrier breaker. If you've ever went to a HBCU, there's a certain format that the SGA president has. It's a certain format that your Miss has, that your Mr. has. I wasn't that. I was Miss Del State during the day, and I was host at night. I'm in the calf like this. I was a whole different Miss HBCU, and when it was time for me to graduate, I was taking over 40 credits in a semester. I had went to China. I was depleted. I ended up in a hospital when I got out. It was a struggle for me from start to finish. And so not only to be asked by Suzanne Walsh, who used to serve as the second deputy director for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that I met back during Black Enterprise when I was a student, for that full circle moment, for her to be tapped as the president of Bennett College, and coming from Bill Gates, her plethora of people who she could have selected, she said Jamila, and have her students say, Jamila, I didn't know my students knew who you were. They didn't even know I knew you, kind of thing. That was full circle. So it was an honor to be asked to be the commencement speaker. We're talking about Felicia Rashad, Maya Angelou, Sheila Johnson. And then for her to come back a week later and say, you know what, Jamila, I want your production company to produce the virtual commencement. This is something that HBCUs don't do across the board. My production company is under, let's say, a staff of 5 people. We virtually produce an HBCU commencement in 16 days.
That's crazy.
That was God's will and doing. I have to thank my team. I had a phenomenal team. Bennett was exceptional, brilliant. Suzanne Walsh is pivotal. And that's what you talk about investing in. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to have the power to put someone in position, and then you do it. And outside of that, my grandmother graduated from Bennett in 1949 and served as the class secretary. She dedicated her life to education and advocacy. So I don't even have to break it down. You heard the story. You can do the math. That was a full circle moment, and that was ordained by God. And I'm just blessed that I could execute it so well. It was done well. And I'm looking forward to the next commencement.
Oh, that's crazy. And congrats to your team, and huge accomplishment. Like you said, that's full circle. Like when it comes to you like that, like it's things that happen in your life, you don't necessarily know why they happening or why it didn't work out or why it's working for you, that it comes back all together, which I think is just nuts. You've been showing that, and you're a key person in the space, and we need your voice. I want to ask you the question that we've asked pretty much a lot of people that have been on this show, and that's pretty much everybody. They don't get on this show without getting this question. If you were that person that just crossed that stage, right, or you dropped out, you say, you know what, school ain't for me, and you're asking yourself the question of the podcast, school's over, now what? What advice would Jamila give?
Put everything you have into everything you want to be. It takes everything. It takes it all.
Yo, that's the key, right? You can't have it, right? You can't have it. You can't be like, yo, I'm gonna try this out just a little bit. I'm gonna try this out. Man, I don't know.
I'm gonna get it 9 to 5. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna work this. It takes everything. When I say everything, it takes sacrifice. It takes your money. It takes your friends. It takes your time. You got to put everything. That's it. How much do I? Everything. Everything you want to be is going to take everything you have in you. And if you can't give everything that you have, you can't be everything.
Facts.
It takes it all. Ask anybody that's uber successful. They've given it all. They've given everything they got to everything they want to be. They sacrificed. At one point in their time, they've sacrificed. They didn't even know how they were going to eat, how their family was going to survive. They had to give it all, because they knew they got one shot at greatness. And good things come to those who wait. Great things come to those who work, and aim to be significant, not famous. Because fame will go, but if you are significant and you are important, no one can erase history, not even God, because he created it for you. So give it all up.
Yo, that's real. That's real. Jamila, I appreciate you so much for coming here, blazing it, giving people nothing but facts. We got to do some more things together. If people trying to find out more about you, right? They're trying to locate you. Give them your info on where they can find you on all social media platforms.
Listen, super simple. JMedia_, JMedia_. That's on the gram. That's on Twitter. From there, right from the gram, you can email me from the gram. You can find my website where you can see some of my work from the gram. If you are a Facebooker, I got you too, or LinkedIn, like to keep it mid-professional. It is Jamila Mustafa, JamilaMustafa, first and last name. Yeah.
Man, I appreciate you so much. For those of you that listening, always remember, dream it, believe it, go out and get it. Yo, what you think? I hope you enjoyed today's episode.
I want to know what you learned. So if you wouldn't mind, would you take a screenshot of you listening to the podcast on your phone right now? Upload to your Instagram stories, tag me at ShawnRAnthony_, and then let me know in that Instagram story what is one thing that you learned. I love hearing from you, my listeners, thought leaders, former or current students all around the world. Let me know, and while you're doing this, go inside the podcast app, subscribe, leave a 5-star review and a 5-star rating. Again, this helps us reach more people. And if you want to be a part of this mission, helping us change the world one person at a time, it makes a massive difference by you leaving a review. Thanks so much. I'll see you next week. And remember, dream it, believe it, go out and get it.